are here.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving. The house of 330. Greetings, Dad. Hugs. Hi, Mom. Happy Thanksgiving. Good to see you. Video live. Hugs. All right, you're sitting here looking at Liberty University.
Yes, looking in at the
Looking at the parade. All right, so all the Thanksgiving traditions are here. Here we have the TV where if we can watch a game or the parades and whatnot. And eventually we'll go and get some turkey, right, Charlene?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, it did start in 71 because that's exactly how old I am. I was born in 71 and I remember that's when the school started.
Do you sing?
No, ma'am. I'm not a singer. I can't carry a tune if I try.
You just look so familiar.
Oh yeah? So you all have lived in Lynchburg?
I was born in North Carolina.
You were born in North Carolina.
So we're at the Madison Heights property, the location of it was called the Dixie Cottage Court.
Exactly.
Right? And Dad, tell us what we're looking at here.
So we're now going into what was our pasture behind the motel unit. And that house to the right existed and was also part of the property, was rented out. And this went down into the pasture. This is all open land down here.
This is where the cow lived that you had the responsibility for?
Further down in there. Yep.
Was this brick house there?
Well, that was neighbor's property. It might have been, I don't know, but I don't remember seeing it. This tan house now was a white house, and the renters had the up part of it, but the basement was walkout like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the storage, workroom, and laundry room for the motel business.
Okay.
Which was to your left, and where that tractor trailer is was the beginning of behind the motel unit. And that was a grassy area that went all the way over to that other white house beyond the bushes.
Mm-hmm.
So this building here, the automotive plant, wasn't here.
Oh,
This was where
it's
the
completely replaced.
Okay.
Yeah, but the two houses were here.
But the two houses were
Right,
there.
and the third house way to your immediate left,
Which house did you live in?
the white house. Well, that's gone too, because that was in front of that tire place. She just drove over it when she came in.
You drove over it.
But so I repainted my bicycle outside those doors.
Right there.
Yeah, right there. And our maid Mamie did the laundry for the motel there.
Mamie did the laundry. And who was the man?
The man, because the renters upstairs, that was the Moyers.
No, but who was the guy that did?
Oh, Uncle Richard.
Uncle Richard.
He lived in a little room underneath the restaurant.
Which was over here,
Which
underneath the garage.
actually where the smoke shop is further up.
And this house was here? This brick house?
Yes, and that's rented. So all these parts of the property were originally one piece of property that my parents owned and were trying to sell unsuccessfully. And so what they finally did was they subdivided it and sold everything at an auction, these different parcels.
All right, houses across the street. Anything there that was there when you were here?
All those houses were there. Yeah.
Okay, so this looks exactly like it did.
Exactly. Right where that car just went is where Fluff got run over.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, I just would like to step out if I can.
Yeah.
So this building here, which is the smoke shop, was originally a gas station and became a diner, but it was run by other people who leased it from my parents. And then after we were here for a year, they just like jumped ship. The lease was out and they left them high and dry, and suddenly they're in the restaurant business too.
All right, Dad, pause the story right there. All right, we're back recording, Dad. Tell us where this sign says Advantage Tire and Service Center up there, across from the Waffle House.
So that was the front signage for what was the Dixie Cottage Court.
Yep.
And right about where that red part of this building is where the offices and the living quarters of the proprietors, which was us.
Yeah.
Our house was there, and this was driveway, and then behind it, still where this building now is, was a 10-unit little motel.
Okay.
And that was the main part of the business, so-called Dixie Cottage Court. This next building had been a gas station and had become a little diner.
Okay.
That was the diner. And then further on, where that red building is, was another different building called the Annex, and it was a two-family apartment.
Okay.
So that's all changed, of course. And I'm wondering where the access is to that other white house.
All right, you see anything you recognize?
So this house in the back, the White House, was the third rented home that my folks owned and rented out, and the front porch is now closed in, but that was an open porch, an older home, and it was an older then, so I don't know how old that house is, but it was an older couple with probably a grandson who was about my age that lived there at the time.
Okay.
And I'd like to go to that other driveway down into those apartments, which will take us into what was the back field of the property. We'll have to take our car down.
So what we're looking at here, as this ground goes down, this was a house that who lived in?
Well, it was the renters at the time. It was Ronnie Evans. I assume his grandparents had the same last name. I don't even know that for sure.
Right.
But they lived there, and then the other two houses at the other end. And then behind you, or to your right, where that mound is,
Yep.
on that newish brick building,
Mhm.
there was a fourth building, which we called the Annex, and
Okay.
it was two-family apartment house. So it had an apartment on the first level and then another one on the second level.
Okay, so that mound, the building that's been built on it now, is something different than what
I
used to
think
be
it's
there.
all been added in, yeah, that's all kinda
Okay.
changed there. But I'm guessing that this, with now a smoke shop, was the restaurant, had been a gas station, could actually be the same building.
Mhm.
It had opened out at the bottom, and it was a cinder block thing.
Which of your siblings would have been here that would have experienced that?
Well, Betty came home at least one summer, maybe two, and she helped out with the diner.
Okay.
And so she was around this property. Russell came to visit once, so he says his memories are pretty dim
Okay.
about it all. But
So it's possible that this is the building where the restaurant diner was.
yeah, well, so where this little porch, like sticking out there, in my day, you could tell that had been the concrete top of a grease pit. You know how they would drive a car
Yep.
onto the platform and people would be working underneath it as part of this garage.
Mm-hmm.
But that had all been filled in, but you could still see the two concrete places that would make the upper part of the grease pit. So it definitely had been a gas station.
Okay.
But those houses on the other side of the road look just the way they looked back then.
That's an awful elaborate looking structure across the street. What was that?
Well, I don't even remember a house like that with a flat top roof. And
Okay.
Maybe that wasn't there. Maybe that was I don't know what that was. But I don't remember it being a church across the street.
Right, but
I thought
definitely
it
a
was-
brick edifice there.
Yeah, I thought it was just houses. So,
Okay.
But I remember at least the two brick houses, red brick houses. It looks very familiar.
Mm-hmm. And when we look back over our shoulder here, you said you wanted to go down a driveway.
Yeah.
I see a driveway off in the distance. Is
Right.
that the one you're referring to?
That's the one. That would be the other side of that driveway would have marked the end of our property.
Okay.
The whole site was 11 acres.
And you've mentioned that looking at this on Google Earth, that there's a new apartments that have all moved in back here, right?
Right. Which we'll go down and we'll see. We'll take that driveway.
So that's what we're looking at next. Okay. When you talk about the competition, who was the motel business that was across the street that was...
It wasn't across the street. It was down the road. There was
Mm-hmm.
a more modern, higher end motel called Thomas's Motor Lodge,
Okay.
and that was like the big dog.
Right.
But we were closest coming out of Lynchburg on
Right.
29, so
Yep.
we had an advantage, I guess.
Okay. So do we believe that other place is still down there or
Well,
something?
we came down 29 a few weeks ago, and I didn't see anything that reminded me that it might have been there. But If it's there, it's probably like, you know, cheap apartments or something.
Okay, so we're literally standing on the space where you grew up. You would run around here, play.
I was a
play with
9-year-old running the rotary mower, mowing the grass.
mowing the grass, the rotary mower, and what was the Fluff you said?
No, we had a couple of kittens, and then Fluff and Puff were two of them, and I know all the kittens died in the streets. So.
Fluff and Puff didn't make it on 29 over there. All right.
That was a busy place.
And you were aged how old at this time?
When we moved here, I was 7. When we moved away, I was 9. So between 7 and 9.
All right, so about 2 to 3 years here. All right, so this is stop 1 of 3. The second stop will be there on that little driveway going down to the apartments. And then the third will go back where the road 29 jutted off business and goes down the hill toward the church where you were saved.
Well, I'm sure that particular street is 29, but we'll go down there in a few minutes. And if you'll turn the camera back, you'll see a big water tower there.
Yep.
That's the thing that I distinctly remember, that our place was right across from that water tower. Sure enough, it's still there.
Okay.
And there's a side road that goes up behind that water tower into a neighborhood. And behind the neighborhood is a big steep hill, and that's where we'd go sledding on the rare occasions when there was snow.
Okay. All right, so there was snow here in Madison Heights at one time.
And my brother Victor's best buddy was John McGraw, and they lived up behind that water tower somewhere too.
Okay. All right, so we'll cut this video here and we'll go on to the next spot.
Past the smoke shop.
There's a vape, tobacco, smoke shop, hookah, and glass.
Left at that little street there, right between those two businesses.
And that street is called Cedar Crest. Turning left at Cedar Crest. Broke your arm. How did you break your arm?
That bank went down into a big patch of kudzu, but on the bank, big leaves.
Oh, Dad, cats. There. The evidence of your fluff. Was it Fluff and what was Fluff and Puff?
3 black cats there.
What colors were Fluff and Puff?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Was this the pasture?
Yep.
Where the cow was? So were these houses all here?
Oh no, it was all
No.
this field, this pasture.
Oh, that's right.
I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna take a picture now.
Take this with you, Dad. Just walk with it. It's on video. Just tell us any of your thoughts as you go.
This was just a bunch of pasture land in the back part of our property. I'm just going to take a peek to see what's still here, because a little creek did kind of run off of a spring that we had at the bottom of the pasture, and it ran into fairly low land. This is really low, but down in there is probably where that spring was, and right next to it was our little cow barn, with a little cow barn that we built. Written on it said David's Hangout. That was where I played. This is all the land that was the pasture behind the motel. So just take a little further in to see what we can see down here. Yeah, the cow would get through the fence, and you have to go somehow get the cow back. And somewhere in here was a great big tree that I used to climb. And that's the end of it. It's like 11 acres of land that my dad owned, but back then it was just a big pasture behind the motel business. In other words, when you were sitting in the milkshakes,
Yeah.
about 25 feet from where I walked every day. Right where that car just went.
Yeah, we went to this there. We used to go here after church.
That's right.
Yeah.
Shirley and I, many times we would stop here for day training right after Tabernacle Baptist Church in Madison Heights.
So now on this road, where that person is walking, is it a woman? That's that was my walk.
Okay. is where you went to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade?
Yep.
Is that where you were given that nickname that we won't repeat? What kind of a lover were you? Yeah, that? It wasn't there? Okay.
Something like this. Left here, sure.
Right.
So this addition here in the back was there.
Okay. So you have any vivid memories in this school?
I do. So where that U-Haul truck is down below is a field. I watched some games and tried to play in a couple and couldn't hit the ball. It went too fast.
That field.
That field right there. And this bank along here, the parking lot was not this high up, so that bank went all the way along.
Mm-hmm.
And recess, where this parking lot is, that was like the run-around recess place.
Okay.
And there would be games going on, and there would be kids up on the top of that bank, classmates of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd be up and down the bank. And when I would come to school in the final year, I'm riding my bicycle, often late to school,
Mm-hmm.
because my mother was running the restaurant breakfast shift, and I
Right.
was on my own and would get up late. And so this green area straight ahead of you to the left was just like that, but there was a bike rack, and so I would come riding into the city and dump my bike and go into my classroom, which is right down the building.
Okay.
Grade class. Late, everybody would already be in the building. And that's where I went to 5th grade. 5th
So
grade.
you were totally late.
Not every time, but enough times to have it on my report card. I was tardy. But when you were coming to college for a weekend,
Right.
to think about going to Liberty,
Mm-hmm.
I wondered how many Madison Heights friends that I could remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a list of about 10 classmates and one Sunday school teacher from the church. And so I started at the school figuring that if I could just find out where all these kids went to high school, I would go to the high school, to the library, find the yearbooks, look up in the yearbooks. This is all pre-Google,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find these classmates. So I walk into the office, school's just getting started, everything's busy, and finally a woman came in just as I was explaining to the lady behind the desk why I was there and what I was looking for. And the other person, woman who came into the room, overheard this. She said, "Well, who are you looking for?" And I started reading my list. I said, "Well, I've got Connie Paget." She says, "I'm Connie." And she's teacher there. And then she knew who I was, and she took me down the hall to introduce me to another teacher who is my brother's friend, John McGraw, who lived behind the water tank.
Mm-hmm.
Her sister, his sister, was also teaching here. I got to chat with her. And then by the rest of the day, I'd met up with 2 teachers, Sunday school teachers, pastor, and several other classmates. But it all started there in that spot. So
All right.
that's it.
That's Dad's school. Now, were you already saved at that time?
Well, I was saved actually in the spring, in April, March or April of the year that we moved away, which was October. So I was still here as a 5th grader, September and October. I was saved, and then we moved. So back to
Okay.
the island.
So the last leg of this little excursion here, where Charlene's going to go next, is going to be to the church, which is
Right.
nearby here.
Right, just down the road.
All right.
And my classmate in that 5th grade class, she and I were always competing to see who would get the answer right the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Shot their hands up real fast. And she
Were you
was-
ever wrong?
I don't know. And but she was my first heartthrob person
Oh. In the 5th grade?
in the 5th grade.
All right.
And
Say
when
that again.
she was my first heartthrob person.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And when we moved to Rhode Island, she's the only person in Virginia that I ever heard from again. She sent me a card,
Oh.
which I was totally shocked. I didn't even know how she had my address, but I kept it on my bureau for a while. That was the end of that. So when I came back here in 89,
Yep.
she was on that list, but being alone and by myself, I didn't know it would be too appropriate for me to go try and look her up. So I did run into my third grade teacher that night, and she remembered me, and so I asked her, well, whatever became. So I said, whatever happened to Diane? Oh, she went to Sweetwater College. She says she's running the daycare over the Church of Christ, Church of Cottage. And she pointed out it's several blocks away, and I thought, oh, well, okay, I'll go check that out. So I go over to the daycare or preschool, whatever, and I see this big little girl, lady, whatever, and they're running the thing. And I told her who I was looking for. I said, oh, looking for Diane. She said, not Diane. So, oh, okay, well. And when I said my name, she knew who I was.
Is this the church?
Nope, that's the Christian church, which is, you know, the competition down the street. But I did, for some reason, went there once. Was struck by the fact that it wasn't the first Sunday of the month, but we're having communion anyway. So they have it every week. Anyway, we walked down the street to Sunday school church. My brother and I, and that building on the corner there was a store. Behind Big Soda, maybe. This is actually the downtown. It's what downtown Madison is.
Okay.
So it's not an interior suburban place. When you see the church that we went to, looking around at this neighborhood, I think like me, it becomes
And so you got here by walking from the motel. It's a good little walk.
and this is just a little tiny road that we crossed over at this point. I don't know when it got expanded. All the people and all the money to build this in this little burg is beyond me. But when I first came here in 1989, it didn't look the same at all, except I realized it's in the exact same location,
Slow down.
exact same shape. But the original building was white and wooden and not brick, but it was set off the road. It had big high steps coming in, it had pillars, it had a front door. Every other way, it looked the same.
This too?
Well, I think that was added since I was here in '89.
Okay.
But this was here, and I finally ran into the pastor. Turned out he'd been there 30-some years and had conducted the funeral for my Sunday school teacher,
Oh,
Mr. Stinson. And he told me that the day of the funeral, the place was packed, and that there were 6 other men in the congregation who had been in his Sunday school classes who were pastors. And I realized that I was just one of many,
one of many.
and that's quite a legacy for a Sunday school teacher to have.
Right?
That was inspiring.
So that's the front of the church that you were saved in
Saved and
the class and baptized from the Sunday school teacher whose name was
Mr. Stinson.
Mr.
I
Stinson.
don't know his first name, but I remember he had a little class of junior boys sitting around a little table. We would sit, he would stand, 3-piece suit, and this old guy, but it was obvious that he really loved Jesus. And at the end of a Sunday school lesson, he would kind of given a salvation invitation, but he would talk about how Jesus died on that cruel cross for you and me, and somehow that prepared the way, I guess, when the Revival Week evangelist came through.
And then within that time frame, it was 2 years later that you all moved back to Rhode Island.
It was 4 months later.
4 months
No,
later.
April, May, June, July, August. 6 months.
Okay.
6 months later.
So who
That's
put you up to getting baptized?
Well, it was the thing to do in a Baptist church. But so that was
So how old were you?
9 years old. It was a few
9.
weeks before Easter, and they were doing a baptism on Palm Sunday. And so I was going to be baptized on Palm Sunday.
Is there any more stories that you wanted to relay?
Well, about the church, I was just going to say that I was supposed to get baptized on that Good Friday, but my sister Betty was due to come home from college in June, and my mother thought it would be nice to wait until June, and Betty could be at the baptism. And so she and the pastor are trying to persuade me to wait. And I remember very distinctly, in the stairwell, it made a turn, you know, so there's a flat area in the stairwell from the top floor of the church to the basement, standing with the two of them, and they're trying to get me to wait till June to be baptized. And I remember very distinctly, in tears, saying to them, why are the two of you trying to get me to postpone doing something that all three of us agree Jesus wants me to do? On that, they relented.
They relented. That's quite a story. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to have Thanksgiving dinner, Godori style, at the Cracker Barrel in Lynchburg, right? Because we spare no expense. We're going to do it big and go to Cracker Barrel.
Sometime between 7 and 9. It's actually on the other side.
Maps.
So is that a bridge for them out there in the river?
Looks like it.
I'm wondering if that's where the bridge that existed when I was here actually went.
And they turned it into a fountain. Let's go.
That other bridge has got big and so forth.
There's your walking path signboards there, Dad. James River Association. Welcome to River Edge Park.
Is there a second footing?
Not really.
Yeah, there is. That's where the old bridge was.
Okay.
Yep.
Here we go.
I did. They're doing it right now. We came down the road from the other side of the circle.
See the road stops?
Yep.
That's where the original bridge went.
Okay.
And then they replaced it here. So that red brick.
Okay.
And that's why the directions wanted to send you back to the right up there is because this no longer meets the road. But I think you can take a right here and go up there and get on
There's a placard right there, Dad. Let's find out. Let's see what
there. Don't
happens.
do that. Just go right. But right there was a little store, and then the road went up this steep hill. This was the main Route 29.
So I'm gonna have to turn.
I think this used to be the Mead Board Company.
Sorry.
The Mead Board Company.
Right.
There's the caboose up on the ledge.
Yeah,
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Why is there
We were looking for that caboose. It's been placed there so that rail fans can watch the yard. It's an Airbnb.
Okay.
It's an Airbnb.
Yes.
Yeah, people do